We'll now accept a motion on item H, the consent agenda.
I move that the Board of Education of Weld County School District 6 approve items as presented on the consent agenda and authorize the officers to sign any and all contracts.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments? Well, I turn my pages here a bit. It's been moved and seconded. We've had an opportunity for comment. Roll call, Ms. Crane? Aye.
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 Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
The next item is I, under board priorities, and it involves the designation of election official and a backup. And Dr. Pilch, maybe you should break the news to our recording secretary that she's going to be named here pretty quickly.
Well, so we are required by law to designate an election official, and so my administrative assistant is who I would recommend do that, Miss Christina Crane, and the backup would be Lindsay in our office to support Christina should Christina not be available. As you know, anytime we have a board election, board member director election, we must have an election official. And anytime we choose to put an item on the ballot, like a mill levy override or a bond issue, we must have a designated election official. So I'm recommending Christina Craig for that.
And with a backup of Ms. Richards. I'll be glad to accept a motion on this at this time.
I move that the Board of Education of Weld County School District 6 designate Christina Crane as the district election official and Lindsay Richards as the alternate election official for the November 2017 election.
Second. Moved and seconded. Comments? Other than saying thank you to both named individuals. Roll call, Ms. Craig.
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Higley?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, ma'am. The next item is, it's spring, and we're doing a little house cleaning. Dr. Pilch, and so I'm thinking that we're taking a look at some policies and regulations. Maybe you can help us just get started on this process.
Thank you, Mr. DeWitt. So you all are going to see over the next several board meetings, you're going to see the new board policies coming forward that are recommended by the Colorado Association of School Boards, policies that are required by state law, policies that are required by the federal government. You will also see some revisions that we're recommending and some policies that we're recommending that we repeal over the next several board meetings. Tonight, all of the policies that we bring you for first read are policies that are required by either state or federal law or other policies and procedures by regulatory agencies. So for example, by some of the agencies that govern our finances. As we present the policies to you tonight, we'll bring them to you in sets. So you'll receive a set that's related to finance, a set that's related to operations, and a set of policies related to instruction. Those are all the new policies that we're recommending tonight. You will receive the first read on those policies. We'll take your feedback and, if necessary, make revisions and bring those back to you at the next board meeting, most likely for consideration for approval of those policies. This is a little bit dense. I want to be clear about that, but we're going to get up to speed and clean house on our policies and really get the policies to where we need them in terms of the work that we must do as a governing agency. So you ready for the first set?
Well, sure, I think we are.
So the first set of policies are related to our fiscal responsibilities and our fiscal obligations. And again, these are recommended as a first read tonight for no action. And Ms. Sponsor, would you please join us should there be questions about the policies? The first one has to do with reporting. So that's policy DAC, Federal Fiscal Compliance. It has to do with requirements for our federal reporting. And then the next policy in that section is DIA, and it has to do with reporting of our online schools and our online students so that we're in compliance with the state of Colorado in relation to that policy. And then the following policy is DJB, Federal Procurement, and again is required by the Uniform Grant Guidance for Federal Funds, again a federal requirement that we bring you tonight. And then the final one, I believe, is DJBR, which is a regulation that we are required to adopt in relation to the federal procurement policy. And I think
DKC.
Oh, then DKC is the final one tonight. And DKC is related to expense authorization and reimbursement, primarily for mileage and travel of employees as well as board members. And again, this needs to be in place for federal requirements. So we're happy to take any questions you might have in relation to those policies.
The only thing that jumped out for me was DJBR, and that's just in situations where we can only find one logical source for whatever material or function we're looking at, then it just once again reinforces transparency and an explanation after the decision. How was it that you selected so and so vendor to do this action? I don't think there's anything other than that. I think it just reinforces the kind of an open window on our actions. Okay. Other comments? Dr. Richard?
A quick question. Most of the language that comes through here, is that coming from the federal or the state government, as in how these policies are crafted?
So this is coming from CASB, and so they have worked with a group of district leaders and attorneys and different people to make sure that all of the requirements are being met that are required as part of the Uniform Grant Guidance. So the Uniform Grant Guidance was really developed at the federal level to simplify, if you will, all the requirements that different federal agencies had in place. So if you can imagine, you have all the different agencies creating their own set of regulations, and if you are a district like we are, then you're getting money not only from the Department of Education, but from USDA, some other agencies. Each of those had a different set of compliance requirements. And so what this Uniform Grant Guidance does is it tries to simplify and create a uniform set of requirements that all agencies have in place. So this is really coming from the federal level to the state through CASB, creating policies that meet those requirements.
And then a quick question on DKC, which is the mileage and travel expense authorization and reimbursement. Does this reflect our current activity when it comes to mileage, reimbursement, and travel?
It does, yes. So we have had similar practices in place for many, many years. This really codifies our practice, and I think one of the questions that we get is, well, who gets reimbursed for mileage, and how do you determine that? So our practice has been that we reimburse people at 90% of the IRS rate. And so whatever that IRS rate becomes, it typically changes in January. Occasionally it changes mid-year. We will recalculate that amount, but we will pay people mileage for district business. Administrators receive a mileage stipend for travel within the district. So if we have meetings across the district and we're going to different buildings, then we get a stipend for that. If we are going to Denver or somewhere else for a meeting, then we can submit for mileage reimbursement.
Other comments or questions? I think we're ready to move
right.
to subject 3.
Want me to just keep moving this
Please,
through?
feel free.
All right. So the next section has to do with school district operations, and again, these have been reviewed by CASB's legal counsel. The first policy is the school nutrition program. This would be a new policy, EF. And then the next one following is again related to school nutrition, has to do with free and reduced price on food services, and this is policy EFC. You can see they're both fairly short policies, and again are requirements because we do receive federal funding for our nutrition services program. You know, one of the questions we've been asked this summer is, why are we spending those district dollars on feeding kids in the summer when school isn't in session? And because we are such a district with a high level of poverty in our community, we are provided additional funding from the federal government specifically earmarked for funding school lunches or school breakfast during the summertime. So while having these policies in place helps us to be able to secure those dollars from the federal government for nutrition services.
Dr. Richard?
I think it was a residual.
Oh, okay. Well, we're all keeping track. So El Fuego is driving around town and kids are being fed at different school sites.
Absolutely.
That's great. Comments or concerns about that, or shall we roll to subject number 4? Let's roll. Dr.
Okay, so
Pitt.
again, this is again a first read. All right, this is a first read of a policy and a regulation that we have not had in place in District 6. The actual requirement is for a regulation to be adopted in relation to health and family life and sex education. The regulation identifies how a family may opt a student out of the health education or sex education curriculum. This regulation is required by state law that we bring you. To have a regulation, you must have a policy. And so we are also adopting a health and family life and sex education policy, or we're proposing one for you that actually is the state recommended policy around health education that we are bringing forward to you. So that's the first two under this section. The next one is in relation to our post-secondary and workforce readiness. You might remember we've done some work on this in the past with our policies around ICAP. This year, with the changes in state law, we have a new policy that is required, that is IHBK, Preparation for Post-Secondary and Workforce Readiness, that we're bringing you for first read, and then a regulation that accompanies that as well, that defines how we will actually develop and implement the individual career and academic plans and fulfill the guidelines that are required by the state in relation to the individual career and academic plans. So there's a regulation that comes with that. Those are all instructional policies that I bring you tonight. And I might as well go right ahead into the J policy. Am I on J yet?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. The physical activity. So the J policy on physical activity. Again, as with some of the policies that Megan spoke about, this really codifies practices that we've had in place, and it is state law that we have a policy now to accompany our practices. But it's physical activity policy JLJ. And again, there's nothing in here that is new to our staff. This is the practice that we've had in place, but this would actually put it in the policy and make it a requirement here in the district. And then I think that's all for that set of policies. Am I right?
Well, the next one is
Yes. Then I go to the IA policy. So that's your set under instruction.
number 6, the IHA, the basic instructional. We're
Did I miss
repealing
one?
that, I think so.
Oh, I'll get to repeals a little bit
Okay,
later.
that's fine.
Yeah.
On the ICAP, it just reinforces what we were discussing this evening in our work session about the fact that we need to make sure each child has a direction within the district, and how we know that she or he are going to get exactly what they're trying to shoot for in their future. So this isn't brand new to our district. That's certainly
No, not at all.
And it's reasonable.
And
educational
again,
practice.
although the policy is new, Mr. DeWitt, this really codifies what we've been doing in practice. We began this work even prior to my coming to District 6, and it was one of the first things that I began to talk to staff about, just to make sure we were shored up in this area, because to really personalize learning for students at the secondary level, that is all about the individual career and academic plan.
Okay. Dr. Richard, you have a comment?
Just a clarification. The IHBK with the preparation for post-secondary readiness, and then the repeal though of IHA.
Yes.
That's the reason we can repeal is if we
Yes,
have.
thank you for
if we
that.
then pass that.
Yes.
And by the way, it's got a much more appropriate title to it.
Yes.
The new one than the old one.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. It
No,
makes it
thank
easier to
you.
find.
You're absolutely right, that when you see the appeal a little later in the agenda here, we can appeal because we're adopting this, because we plan to adopt this new policy.
So are we repealing tonight? Do we have to, well, I don't-
That would be our recommendation, is that you repeal tonight and then we replace with new policy? No.
No, that
We're
would
not
be-
repealing, this
we
is a
don't-
first read of the
There you
repeal
go.
tonight.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Okay.
It's a study tonight.
Okay.
We're doing
Thank
fine.
you. Didn't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Thank you.
So we did just publicly talk about number 6, the repeal. And number 7, the revisions to ADF school wellness.
And that's action.
And that would be an action item, but just allowing Dr. Filch to find us as a page. We lost electricity to some things, and so we're all working on a
Yes.
hard copy here, so thank goodness.
I'm caught up with you now,
Okay,
sir.
so this is an action item. I'd be glad to accept a motion involving this item, subject 7, revisions to policy ADF school wellness.
I move that the Board of Education of Weld County School District 6 approves the revisions to policy ADF, school wellness as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Dr. Filch.
Thank you. It's a slight revision to policy, but it's some added language, and there's just a couple of sentences on the first page of the policy, and then a little bit more on the second page of the policy. So they're not dramatic changes, but again, these are required by the USDA because we receive federal dollars for our school nutrition program. So what you see here is that we must at least triennially evaluate our program and make public our documents to the community. And you'll also see some additional language around how we provide food to students and what food we provide to students.
Other comments or questions from the team on subject number 7, revisions? You've been moved and seconded. Roll call. Ms. Crane?
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Hinckley?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
I'll be glad to accept a motion on the next item, 8, revisions to policy EBCE, school closings and cancellations.
I move that the Board of Education of Will County School District 6 approves the revisions to policy EBCE, school closings and cancellations as presented.
Second.
Dr. Filch?
So this is an exception to what I said earlier around requirements by state law. This is a revision that we are bringing forward as staff as we close school last school year on snow days and then approach the possibility of closing schools this year for snow or weather. We pulled our policy and realized that we've got some pretty archaic language in here that the board would ratify the closing of any schools or any school days. And so we're recommending that we scratch that language out, and then we're also recommending that we clarify who must come to work, who must report to work on those days that the schools are actually closed. And so what you see there is that we would require members of our the critical members of our leadership team to report. We would require building principals and building managers to report to secure the building to make sure that kids are safe and no students are hanging around the schools waiting for school to start on the day that school has been called up. So that's the cause for those recommended revisions in that policy that we bring you tonight.
Dr. Filch, you know you can call on us at any time, but I'm at peace with the idea of you not calling on us at 4 in the morning to determine that it might be a good day to cancel classes. So it's been moved and seconded. Are there comments? Seeing none, roll call, Ms. Crane, please.
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Hinckley?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Glad to accept a motion regarding revision to policy EFEA, nutritious food choices. That's subject number 9.
I move that the Board of Education of Wall County School District 6 approves the revision to policy EFEA, nutritious food choices, as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Dr. Pilch?
So what you see here is you see a lot of strikeout and then a lot of new. So what we've done is we've taken the requirements by the federal regulations by USDA. This is about nutritious food, and we put those requirements into a recommendation for policy EFEA, and then we've taken out the healthy food guidelines that were previously in policy, and we've moved them to regulation because regulation does not require board action to change, and those regulations, they change sometimes more than once a year from the federal government. So that really is to just to expedite our processes and to clean up our practices.
Comments from anyone on the board? Dandy. Roll call. Ms. Kramer.
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Hinckley?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
I'm glad to accept a motion regarding the next item, number 10, revisions to policy KHC, distribution and posting of non-curricular materials. Dr. Pilch, this is an action item, so I'll look for a motion and a second.
I move that the Board of Education of Wall County School District 6 approves the revisions to policy KHC, distribution and posting of non-curricular materials as presented.
Moved and seconded. Dr. Pilch.
So again, this is a recommendation by staff and me to revise policy KHC around the distribution and posting of non-curricular materials. We've added some language that is being recommended from the state level there at the beginning of it that describes the purpose of the policy and how a person from the public would request to have materials distributed in the school district. And then the language we've eliminated is really again, kind of archaic in practice, and so not significant changes here, but really cleans the policy up and makes it more appropriate for what we do on a day-to-day basis for District 6.
Don't see any lights. Don't ask any comments. Roll call, Ms. Gray.
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Hinckley?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. Well, this does conclude our meeting on these extensive items. A special word of thanks to all District 6 employees who participated in getting this manifest package together and who helped with the organization, especially at the last minute when we had to come up with some alternative media approaches. Wish Mr. Hinckley a happy birthday. This meeting is adjourned.
Happy birthday!